The argument versus the explanation. My previous lecture focused on one special kind of explanation, a literature survey. Typically an academic exercise, a literature survey is written to demonstrate that you fully understand all aspects of a field before you advance an argument in the field. And to fully understand the state of the field, it's generally important to review and understand at least these 5 items: the players, the significant problems, any significant discoveries, current controversies, and current or recommended solutions. So then we can say that an explanation is an argument. We've said that before. And what kind of argument is an explanation? Well, it says to fully understand whatever it is, these and not those facts are the most significant to know. Or these facts, not those, are the cause of X. So we know that an explanation is one kind of an argument. So what do I mean by making an explanation, an argument different than an explanation? Well, to argue, you add a should or a would, something we should do because of these significant facts. Sometimes it's something we should understand differently because of these facts. Often it's something we should do because of these facts. So here was our previous example from science and history. Yersinia pestis, what caused the Black Plague? Why did it or did it not cause a widespread plague? And in our previous lecture, we reviewed that rats were a vector, cattle and anthrax could have been a vector, the Mongol Empire displacing people groups into the West was a factor, and the animal breeding techniques that spread across a warming Europe could have been a factor. All of those could have been a factor. Research has showed that maybe cattle and anthrax were probably not the significant factor, maybe a minor factor, or maybe a secondary factor in this problem, but not the biggest one. So there are 3 significant causes: rats, the Mongol Empire moving people across into the West, and animal breeding techniques that spread across a warming Europe. There are just more animals to spread the disease. So those are our 3 big causes to consider. Now what should we do because of that? The plague is long gone, and it's no longer, well, it is with us, but not in any significant way. So what should we do because of that? Well, we can say, if rats were a vector then we should control wild animals as a vector now, and we found that out with COVID-19 that was an issue. If the Mongol Empire displacing people groups into the West were a problem then, we should monitor the war-related large displacement of people groups from one region to another now. And that is happening all around the world now. And they do create health crises, so we should be monitoring that and figuring out how to meet people's health needs. Then the last one, okay, if animal breeding techniques were a problem then, we should take a look at and be careful about animal breeding techniques that are shared globally now. So that's how you argue from a new understanding and significant facts to new actions that you should take because of those facts. Let's take another example, our example from literature or history. And we had said that Shakespeare's people still do disagree about who Shakespeare could be, and we'd looked at that a little bit. One of the reasons that people disagree is that the style of the early plays is different from the style of the later plays. And the style of the poems is maybe a little different from the style of the plays. There are no deed records for Shakespeare's lodging in London, and we don't have any notes written in King James's hand for Shakespeare, even though we know that he was a king's player. So we're just kind of wondering about, is that really Shakespeare? Was there somebody else who was writing those plays? So what do you do with that? It's a controversy long gone in some ways, but you could say, all right, we're going to argue that the style of the poems is really consistent with the style of the plays, and we're going to throw that one fact out. We're going to say the other 3 are the more significant things to know. So those things actually give you enough to argue about. Deed records missing, no record of notes, style of the early plays different from the later plays. There is something to argue about there if you're a Shakespeare scholar, but what to do with that? So what do we do with this? We might say, well, if we understand why scholars disagree about Shakespeare and the reasons they disagree, we might think to ourselves, we should ensure our important historical leaders are well documented, so this doesn't happen to us. Maybe we should take a look at our presidential libraries and make sure that they have valid documents that are well supported, because we know that things get lost in time. And we might even create a style identification guide handwriting or typical words that were used, so that we know that this really is the speech of a president. I happen to be looking up the military-industrial complex idea, which was first advanced by Eisenhower, and people who study that speech have looked at his handwriting and the handwriting of others who contributed to it and have said, yeah, that really is Eisenhower's ideas, that's his handwriting. And we know, or this is his brother's handwriting, and we know that he and his brother talked a lot about it. So style identification guides are one good historical way to figure out that something came from a particular person. So that's an example of how you could apply a literary argument to a historical situation. Well, here's another one we could look at. This is a sociological or technological problem. There is a lot of food waste in America. It could have come from schools or restaurants or homes or factories or farms or transportation. And we might say that factories and farms are not the most significant contributors. Schools, restaurants, homes, and transportation are the most significant contributors. But honestly, this is really pretty hard to solve, because in some ways there's so many different ways you could approach schools, restaurants, homes, and transportation. There isn't just one solution to this, and the solution would have to be coordinated, and that could be very difficult. So what do you think we should do? That's an open-ended question. It poses a problem to you that you could think about, and you could realize that some problems don't necessarily admit of easy solutions, and they don't have an easy would or should for us to follow. All right, thanks very much.